Hey everybody, good afternoon. It's 12 noon. It's the 22nd day of 2021, August of 2021. I am your grumpy guide to all things gaming, the OG Jam, and I just realized we haven't done a RPG story in a while. Every now and then I ask, what's going on in your role-playing life? And for the longest time the answer was nothing because of COVID. I'm not role-playing. But I have been gaming a little bit, and that's sort of gotten the engine rolling. And oops, somebody's texting me. And I'm, starting to remember stories from my past. And then somebody mentioned Fate in a Discord discussion I was following. That reminded me of my one experience with Fate, which was strange. It was really strange. I've no way to judge Fate. I've heard good things about it. I've heard bad things about it, like every other game, and I've heard there's some politics associated with it. I know it's somehow descended from Fudge and everything that came out of the Forge and Solomon and Willis and Consulman and all that crap. But the actual system I don't really know anything about. And my one experience with it was very, very weird. So let's set the stage. A friend was running a game using, I believe, Savage Worlds. Yes, he was running a game using Savage Worlds, and we were sort of a cross-dimension detective game. It was very strange, but it was a lot of fun, and it was one of the games that, there's certain games that just work with the Savage World system, and the game he was running really, really worked with Savage Worlds. But then that friend had to leave town because of family stuff. So another friend decided to take the game over for him, and I guess they sat down and worked it all out. I don't know. But he decided to run Fate. So I missed a week or 2 weeks because of real life, and I came back and I'm told that, friend is not running the system using Savage Worlds anymore. We've switched all the characters to Fate. And I'm like, okay, I don't have any experience with Fate, but and then I guess he had done my character for me in Fate. So I look down and I see all these things and I like, what does this mean? I don't understand any of this. So we start playing, and I mentioned again, I don't know how the system works. Can somebody tell me, what do these mean? And here's where the weirdness got. None of the players explained the changes to me or how Fate worked, and the DM didn't explain to me. Not even the basis of what the dice means. I'm just looking at these weird six-siders with marks on them, and I'm looking at my character, and there's some words, I can understand and go, okay, I guess I understand what that means, and I see some stuff that I recognize from my character when he was in Savage Worlds, but where are my things, and my numbers, and my powers, and my hit points, and my strength? And can somebody explain to me how the dice work? How do I know if I succeeded? And again, nobody told me. And the DM wouldn't bother to explain to me. And it sort of became a thing where it came to my turn and I had to do something, and they're like, roll the dice. And I'm like, okay. So I'd grab the dice and I'd roll them and I say, okay, I got a thing and a blank one and a thing. What does that mean? Did I succeed? And they wouldn't tell me. And that went on for 2 hours. And then the game ended, and we took a break, and then we switched over to a different game somebody else was running. And I approached the DM, and I'm like, dude, I don't understand the system. Can you at least explain to me what's going on, the basic mechanics? And he just sort of looked at me weird and walked away. And then the next week, the same thing. We're playing again, and we're playing Fate, and it's like I'm not in on the coolness. And I don't know if I'm just sort of being ostracized because I missed the first game, or if just nobody understood the rules and nobody had the gumption to admit they didn't understand the rules. So instead of saying, you know what, I don't understand them either, they just all kept quiet. So there's another hour and a half game of Fate where I'm like, okay, I'm rolling these dice. How many do I roll? All right, I rolled these things and there's marks on them. What do they mean? I don't know. You haven't told me. So I'm going to assume I succeed until you tell me I failed. And that's how I played for the next hour and a half. I was like, hey, can somebody explain this to me? Nobody would. None of the players would. The DM would. I had no idea, And I could have looked it up. Yes, I definitely could have looked up how fate worked. But at that point, I was like, yes, I could look it up, but I shouldn't have to, because bare minimum, if you've never played a game before, no matter how much experience you have, the DM should at least tell you what the dice mean. 3 pips means a success. 2 pips means partial success. No pips means a failure or whatever. I don't know. Eventually the pluses were explained to me. I don't actually remember because it was briefly explained to me by somebody else, and then we never played Fate again. But for that hour and a half, for the second game, I made it clear I didn't understand. None of the players bothered to explain it to me. They just did things. I couldn't tell if they actually knew what was going on or were confused like me. And then again, I would address the DM, and again, I got nothing. So I just assumed from that point on till the game ended, and if I'm rolling the dice, I succeed until you tell me I failed. And that's how I played for the next hour and a half, with just sort of this very sarcastic, but silly idea that I succeed until you tell me I failed because you're not explaining the dice to me. And that lasted for an hour and a half, and then we ended, took a break, and again, I was like, dude, I don't understand this game. You need to at least explain the dice to me. And again, I got this weird look. And then we played the other game, and I brought it up, and nobody really responded, and I started feeling really weird. And then that guy never came back, and we just sort of forgot about it. It was almost like I was in another universe for 2 weeks, and then everything reset itself, Mandela effect, and suddenly it's like just it happened, but it didn't happen because nobody ever brought it up again. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to bring it up if nobody else was. But to this day, I have never played Fate again. So I have no basis for whether it's a good game or a bad game. I don't know anything about it other than this very bizarre experience I had for 2 weeks playing Fate, where I tried desperately to get somebody to at least explain the basics of what the dice mean to me, and nobody did. And the DM wouldn't or couldn't. And I'm left wondering, again, is it just that nobody understood the game but didn't have the balls to admit they didn't understand? So they didn't say, and if, because they're too embarrassed, which means, you have a conspiracy of silence where nobody understands it. Nobody wants to admit they understand it. They assume everybody else around them understands it, so they don't say anything. And if that's true for everybody, then none of them are saying anything because they're assuming you get it. So if I don't get it, I'm going to look like an idiot. And I'm the only one who has no social, whatever. So I'm like, I don't understand this. And no answer. And to this day, since I've never played Fate again, in fact, it's never even been mentioned until this week, and I didn't really think about it until just now, I still don't understand really. I mean, I get it now. It's been explained to me. I have a basic understanding. I'm sure I could play it again and maybe have a better understanding of what the dice means. And maybe, yes, I should have looked it up. Yes, I definitely should have not been that much of an asshole. I should have just taken 5 minutes to look up how the rules work on the internet. But it's just the weirdness. And, now that I'm talking about it again, it just sort of brings up that, what was those 2 weeks all about? What was going on with those people? What did I miss? Did I do something? This is just weird. It's just weird and sort of uncomfortable weird. And now, I'm thinking about it again, and I'm like, that was just kind of weird. It was just sort of uncomfortable weird. Was this like a Mandela effect? Was I in a different universe for 2 weeks? I don't understand. And I still don't understand. Anyways, that was an RPG story. If you appreciate RPG story time and want to hear more, let me know. If you've had any experiences with Fate, let me know. If you've had any experience like this experience where you're the only one at the table going, hey, I don't understand. Why doesn't anybody explain it to me? Let me know. Understand, I do not have any issue with Fate whatsoever. This is not a complaint about Fate or even about those players or that DM. It was just a very weird experience that I still don't get. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. I will talk to you later. Fate.